All right, it says we're live, but let me just double check the other end as well. It's not live officially until I see that it's live on the other end. Okay, it's live on the other end. All right. Yay! Hey guys. All right, so this is a special Resolute TV event. These won't happen very often, but when they do happen, they're exciting. We have two candidates who are in the running for the incoming by-election for the Eden Monaro. So we have Liberal Democrat Dean McCrae, self-identified libertarian, and we have Riccardo Bosi, an independent in this particular by-election. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Yes, and so we have two individuals who are both in the running among a myriad of others, but at the moment I believe to be the two most effective people. They are of very somewhat similar thinking and somewhat not similar thinking. So we will try and break that down. But just to start off with, I've got my questions here. Okay, so the electorate covers the coast from Eden to Touros Lake, inland to Yass, and down the snowy mountains along the Victorian border. None of its communities have been spared the most recent challenges in the past year. How are you guys able to make a difference? Riccardo, let's start with you.
Thanks, dear. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yay!
There's a couple of long and short answers to that question, but the immediate issue, and getting around the electorate today, it is abundantly clear. The immediate issue is to get people back to work and earning money as quickly as possible. Everything else can wait until the day after tomorrow. That can't wait. So the first thing we've got to do is open up Australia 100%. Just get back to work as quick as you can. The nonsense about the second wave, there might be a second wave, and I don't doubt they'd love a second wave. The globalists would. Yeah. But the fact is, when someone gets sick, you quarantine the sick people. You don't quarantine the healthy people. Let us get back to work. That's point number one. Point number two, they're talking about raising taxes to pay for this debt. It's insanity. The first thing you do is drop taxes as hard and as fast as you can. And our policy, for example, is a 20% flat tax. You there? We disappeared. A 20% flat tax if you live in a capital city. That's it. And if you live outside a capital city, live and work outside a capital city, it's a 10% flat tax. And every other tax goes out the window. Stamp duty, capital gains tax, every of those payroll tax, all gone. So what it means is that the entrepreneurs can get to work, because to create wealth, you need three things. You need capital, you need labor, and you need leadership. And the entrepreneurs provide the leadership. The labor's just looking for work to do, and the capital's there for any business that's ready to make money. So the best thing we can do for Eden Monaro, and the best thing we can do for the country, is open it up as fast as we can, because otherwise we're heading down a very bad place.
Dean.
Mate, I think you're 100% right. The only variance we have is we've put forward a proposal to can all of, or to create a special economic zone for the Eden Monaro. We plan to can all of the federal taxes for the Eden Monaro. You're 100% right. We need to get everybody back to work. We need to save the economy. The COVID stuff, I made a couple of little videos this morning. That's all bullshit. Not that people being sick and die. Sorry, Riccardo, mate, you're on Resolute, mate. You can be a little bit edgy. It's all right. And for anybody who's not sure, Riccardo and I agree on a heap. So it's going to be. It certainly won't be blood sport with us tonight. There's no doubt about it. We need to get. These people have Eden Monaro. It's what's happened. They've had COVID-19 bullshit. We've had fires. We've had floods. They've been absolutely decimated. I've spent a large part of my working life working in and around the Eden Monaro. I spent my entire apprenticeship working out of Canberra and Queanbeyan, Bungendore, Braidwood, all these areas. And you know, these guys need help, and taxing the shit out of them isn't going to solve it. And that's what big governments do: is they tax, they bring in more laws. They come up to entrepreneurial type guys, you know, and I've had my ass kicked on numerous occasions in the entrepreneurial world. You know, the red tape kills you. You spend more on red tape than you do on employing a genuine employee. You're too busy funding an accountant or a bookkeeper or some idiot you can't get rid of when there's people who do want to produce and work. And the way they've set this up is we're not allowed to work. It's an absolute travesty, and they use this COVID to to lock people up like battery caged hens. And I'm, not having it. I've been picking fights all week with it, and I've been picking fights with them since they started. It's like a hobby.
Have fun. Sounds like a good hobby. All right, that sort of leads very well into the next question, which is how could government have responded better to the pandemic and the bushfires? Because obviously the two of you are both smaller parties and you don't like what big governments are doing. So Riccardo, we'll start with you.
Sure, thanks. Just before I get into it, the detail, the electorate are furious. One of my volunteers was working down at Eden today, and the moment he mentioned politician, he just about had the whole pub against him, and there was almost a punch-up. They are not interested. They're not the least bit interested.
We've spent time there.
Yeah. Where's the money gone, comrade? They should be asking Comrade Scott Morrison, where's the money gone on the bushfires? But what can we do? The bushfires and the COVID and the lot, it's extraordinarily badly managed. The bushfires are a classic case of years of neglect and intentional poor management. It's not an accident. Now, these fires were as bad as they were because they wanted them to be bad. What's their agenda? Well, I've got a few theories on that too. But that was a long-term poor management. The COVID nonsense, that's a massive overreaction by an incompetent goose called Silent Scott Morrison, who is, the third highest paid national leader on the planet. He has the entire government and bureaucracy behind him to help steer the nation. And yet he's got to call in a quiet cabal of advisors that nobody knows what the hell's going on. So you've got, it's your classic case, the two bookends, years of neglect and then a massive overreaction by an incompetent goose running the country. Now, they used to say, you've got to pay politicians a lot of money because if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Well, we're paying top dollar and we got less than monkeys. In fact, I reckon 150 monkeys would do a better job than the current lot.
You make it hard to disagree with you, mate. I can't disagree with you. The green policies, and people go, Greens haven't been in a position to make policy around bushfire and whatever. Here's the trick that the Greens have been using for a lot of years that a lot of people don't really realise is where they've gained their power is with local councils.
That's correct.
So they haven't got a lot of power federally. They haven't got a lot of power at state levels. And let me tell you, the average punter in Australia has no idea the different layers and tiers. Hell, I struggle to keep up with it, and I've spent 5 years sort of, upsetting them. And it's hard to keep track of who's responsible for what, where, why, and how. And that's 100% how they managed to fuck up the fires as badly as they did. Is nobody took charge other than the poor fireman who kind of just got dumped with the whole lot, and he kind of might as well have run the country for that 3 months. But what the Greens and those sort of insidious lefties do, and I don't see myself as left or right in that context. I think we're on a whole nother plane. But what they do is they get their local councillors elected because Greens people tend to be, they're well liked, they're personable, all that sort of shit in local communities. They get in there in areas like the Eden Monaro and they're on councils. They're against backburning. They're against any basic maintenance of national parks and all these sort of things. Areas where four-wheel drivers, motorbike riders, guys like that, the Brumby thing has driven me mad this week. These things all used to look after, to some degree, our national parks, our forests, our wildlife. And the other thing that they also do on councils is they don't let people manage their own properties. So if you're a homeowner and you've got a whole bunch of sort of half-baked forest on your 5 acres, you're not allowed to clear any of it because some dickhead councillor's going, no, you're not allowed to clear that property. And through comes all the fire, people lose homes, and they're all going, oh, well, I don't know how that happened. Well, I can tell you, these people weren't allowed to clear rubbish and scrub off their property, and people lost their homes and people lost their lives, and the whole thing was tragic. And this mob couldn't run a bar. The alternatives aren't much better, and guys like myself and Riccardo, and there's and there are other sort of blokes running around that I hope like hell have some sort of conviction will help make a difference, but they do everything they can to keep us out of their club, which is probably
that's a good point, Dean, because the mistake that a lot of the punters will make, they go, well, bugger politics, I'm not going to vote for anybody because they're all crooks, and I've got to agree with them. And in fact, one of the guys I was speaking to today up in Yass, great bloke, and he said, well, the politicians are visiting us. And I looked at him and said, mate, please don't call me a politician. I'm actually quite proud of my profession, and politics isn't it. But the punters, if they disengage from the process, if they throw their hands up and say that's it, they're playing right into the hands of the Liberal, Labor, National Green Uni Party. Because all four of the majors, they're all owned by the same people. They're paid by the same people. They take orders from the same people, and it's musical chairs. And what the punters have got to do is get a hold of it, get in there and start taking control of the country, organise themselves, get a small group, get 5 people together, form a branch of a party or just an active group, but ignore anything to do with Liberal, Labor, Nationals, Greens. If they don't engage, if the punters withdraw, we're in for a world of hurt. This is exactly the time where everybody's got to step up. Now, whether they vote for me or you, Dean, and, God, I hope they vote for both of us because...
Me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
so if not voting for me,
nice,
vote for Dean.
One, two. Who cares? Who cares which order? 1 or 2 would be sweet.
Makes no difference to me because the matter is the miners have to get up. The Davids have to throw a few stones at the Goliaths and make the Goliaths fall. And then I can guarantee you, once the shackles have lifted off Australia, the shackles that have been put on this country for 45 years by every globalist nonsense from the Lieben Declaration all the way through where we have been obliged to destroy our industry, to destroy our culture for some globalist dream. Once those shackles are off, you watch Australia take off, we can become a genuinely, truly great nation once again.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Cool. Sorry. I'm excited for what Australia can become.
Mate, me and Dee are obviously spending a bit of time up my way at the moment. And we went for a little tour around certain parts of the electorate the other day, and I've got a double-ended sword, I suppose, where I go Liberal Democrat and people's heads spin off their neck. One, because they don't know what actually Liberal was. She was, this lady, she was ready to, stab both of us on principle. And then I said, no. Not just Liberal Party, Liberal Democrat. We're a different thing. Well, you need to change the name of your party. And I said, we're a party of quite a few thousand people. I can't just go, hey, I'd like to change the name to the Dean McCrae party or the Taxation is Theft party. It's not
the Yellow Vest party.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. It's not a one man operation. But once we actually spoke to her and we got through that line of defence, she was kind of like, so what you're saying is that you're not part of the Liberal Party. I said, listen, if I agree on principle with something they put out, on principle, I will vote in support of it. That doesn't matter whether it's Liberal, Labor, Greens. If I kind of agree with whatever bill or policy is being put forward, of course I'll agree with it. If I'm not going to just disagree to disagree. If I think it's the right thing and it fits in with the values of the party and my own values, I'll vote with it. If I'll pick fights with Scott Morrison all day. I really have no interest in being his friend. I would be more than happy to, eradicate 90% of the politicians anyway. And to be perfectly honest, we've got 3 tiers of government. At most, we need 2. Why have we got an extra layer of bullshit bureaucracy? 1, living off taxpayer funds. 2, inflicting more bullshit rules, regulations on people, personally and, professionally, than they have any business sticking their nose in. And most of them aren't qualified to run their own lives, let alone dictate to you how to be a better Riccardo Bosi or me how to be a better Dean McCrae or how to be a better Dia BELTRAN. None of them have any qualifications or capabilities to do so. And the fact that they are arrogant enough to even try just does my head in. It blows me away.
I need to be a better Dia BELTRAN.
Well, definitely don't ask a politician how, mate. Don't ask a politician.
But you guys are politicians.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
Have you seen all my anti-poly posts, mate? Every article, the anti-poly. I'm not one of them. I don't care if I'm elected. I've already offered to give the money back.
You're both anti-polys. I would identify you both as anti-polys.
But you make another good point there, Dean, because the councils have no place in the Constitution. They're corporations established, essentially to pick up, rates and rubbish.
Rates, maybe they can fill potholes, Riccardo. I'd let them fill potholes if they could get that right.
If they put their head in the pothole, that'd be a good job. But what people don't realise about their local councils is that they have no role in the Constitution. They don't exist. and
didn't know
yet
that.
they are signing up to the United Nations directly. And I told this story before, but I'll say it again to this new audience. I was doing a talk up in Newcastle, and I was explaining the threat that the UN is towards Australia. And a young couple up the front sort of said, well, how is the UN a threat to us? And I said, well, your Lord Mayor signed up to become a UN city and flew to Zurich, and they signed the document, and now the Newcastle City strategic plan mimics exactly the UN strategic plan. It's got nothing to do with coal, steel, wealth production. Newcastle used to be the beating heart of an industrialised Australia. No, none of that. But the UN's going to give this council $500 million over 10 years to establish a section in the university to help with disaster management. Now, that's great for Professor Kafoops, but Jacko and Norell, with their kids, they're trying to raise a family, buy a house, earn a decent job, and contribute to the nation. Nothing for them. So they're bypassing it. And once again, the cowards in the federal government, the state government, know this is happening and are allowing it to happen. Have you noticed recently they started talking about sovereignty? Bloody hell. They haven't mentioned that word since I started banging on about it. And all of a sudden, you must get the same response there, Dean. When you put something up, they start talking. So they talk sovereignty, but they haven't got a clue about it. They are allowing our sovereign rights to be taken every day of the week. And it's been going on for decades, absolute decades. So there you go. So the councils are a real threat, and you're dead right. That's where the Greens get their teeth in. They destroy the nation at 3 levels.
This is a book written by Dick Yardley, and it actually explains that the current Australian Constitution has been diluted so much. This is pages and pages full of every single law that they have actually made more difficult for the Australian population. We're gonna be interviewing him at some stage, but yeah. So that's the state of Australia's constitution and laws.
Well, that's our first. And I'll try not to talk too much longer, then give you a shot. But our first issue is sovereignty, and it's exactly that. We've got to go back to the original Constitution, 1901, because Australians would be horrified if they knew that most of the laws that they are currently following are unconstitutional. The Parliament is unconstitutional. They have no more authority. They have no more authority than going down to the local pub, grabbing 151 people at random and telling them to make laws. But both sides are playing this game. All the 4 majors, they know it, and they're happy to keep playing this game. So we need a very deep look by highly professional individuals to look at what's been done. And if we have to start from scratch, then let's start from scratch. But I can guarantee you it'd be hard-pressed to find a legal mind in the country that isn't bent and has the skill to actually put together and repair what's been done to the Constitution.
Mate, I could find two or three legal minds that probably aren't bent, but let me tell you, they're the equivalent of you and I involving ourselves in politics. They're so far in the minority. And let's be fair, if anybody's ever looked at the law, which the average Australian, unless you have to, the average Australian doesn't want to know. That little bookshelf behind you there, dear, is nothing compared to the rows and rows and rooms and of bullshit rules and regulations and laws that these mobs have snuck in. They don't repeal any of them. So quite often one law actually cancels out the other one, and no bastard's got any idea what's going on. Gary Packer made a good point about it many years ago when he was under investigation for being a bad boy. And as he said to him, you guys need to start repealing laws. Unless you've got 25 lawyers, you've got no hope in hell of knowing what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And on the topic of sovereignty, how in the blue hell is somebody like Dan Andrews selling us off down to the Chinese government? How can a council make an international deal with a country or a United Nations? How can a state make a deal independent of the country with other nations? Dan Andrews is making a deal for all Australians, because let me tell you, if Victoria becomes a state of China, they're not going to give a flying fuck about the rest of us. And then to make it even more full of shit is I'm just trying to think which PM, Andrew Robb, I think the other day. It turns out after he left Parliament, he was a former traffic minister. He's now on $850,000 a year. So he was a Liberal Party guy, just to show that it happens on both sides. 850, give or take a couple $100,000 probably, to work for the Chinese company that now owns the rights to the Port of Darwin, who is a big Chinese Communist Party propaganda machine buying up Australia on the cheap. We don't own our own country anymore. And I've had debates with some of your audience on occasion, Dia, and some friends of mutual friends of ours, which is fine. I don't mind. I'll talk to them about all sorts of things. But they're going, but what happens if we're invaded? It's like we're fucking selling the country. Don't worry about them invading us. They're buying it and moving in.
Oh,
You know?
it's too expensive to invade, as I said before, I think. It costs money for ships, planes, bombs, Nuremberg trials. Too messy. Just buy the politicians and they'll give it away. And that's exactly what's happening. Oh, and by the way, wasn't it Alan Jones said the other night that the reason Dan Andrews can do what he's doing, Comrade Dan, is because Malcolm Turnbull signed the Belt and Road Agreement in 2017. So thanks, Malcolm. The Liberal Party. Now, here's the point, and I just want to say this before I forget.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say a word against any other candidate at all. Yep. Because they're just people. They might be good people. I hear, there are some candidates apparently, good, solid people. That's not the point. The Liberal Party, the Labor Party, the Nationals or the Greens could nominate, could endorse Mother Teresa. It wouldn't make a scrap of difference because the machine won't let it. So we've got these allegedly, heroic characters in all these parties that are going to save Australia, and not one of them said a word on the big issues. Not one. Even I say to people all the time, pick your favourite hero who's going to save the country, and have they said a word about any of the serious issues? And the answer is, nothing. They say nothing because they can't, because they won't. Not one of those individuals, not one parliamentarian has got the stones to say what's got to be said. Oh, there's one thing though, Dean, you've got to be careful.
Sorry, mate.
I get warned all the time, my tone isn't statesman-like. If I want to be a national leader, I've got a more appropriate tone. And I see red at that, because what's the appropriate tone when the Liberal, Labor, Nationals and Greens allow full-term abortion to rip out a baby at birth, suck out its brains and sell its body parts to the Chinese? At what point am I allowed to lose my calm demeanour and revert to my previous profession? Because there's a million important policies that have to be dealt with, and they are really important. But they are destroying the soul of this country. It doesn't matter if we're going to kill babies at birth and say it's a good thing. And Emily's List, for those who don't know, Penny Wong, Tanya Plibersek, they're the current stars of Emily's List, and their job is to demand full-term abortion on demand, publicly funded nationwide.
Disgusting.
Now, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what interest rates are. It doesn't matter what our debt is. We're killing babies. I mean, this is pre-biblical stuff. Give me a break. And yet Silent Scott says nothing. Thai massage parlour Anthony Albanese says nothing.
I haven't heard the Tides. I like that.
Whoever the clown running the Nationals, whichever clown is currently running the Nationals, I can never remember his name.
McCormack. He's, I've got a broom in the cupboard with more personality.
That's it. And Adam Van, the man that texted his support for a school teaching kids how to sext. That's the National Greens leader is happy.
Adam Van is a world-class parasite. He is top line.
They're your four national leaders, Australia. So you can vote for your politician if you want to, but they're the national. They're the best the parties have got. So, goodness me, you're better off voting for anybody but the big four.
Mate, 100%.
Before I move on to the next question, Riccardo Bosi just mentioned abortion. And Dean, according to some of the people in my audience, they think that you're a demonic libertarian that likes to eat babies. So do you want to maybe establish your position?
If you cook them right, they're fantastic.
What do you want to?
Now,
That's not a good joke. That's not a good joke.
Some lunatic will cut and paste that, and it'll go on a T-shirt somewhere. Now, you and I, Dee, you're very pro-life, and I've made a joke for absolute years that there are some 30, 40-year-olds I can think of that should be really late-term aborted.
This is the person that tends to come up against you regarding this issue, this particular viewer.
Yeah. More than happy. As far as some forms of abortion, I'll give you the long and the short. So the party basic stance that I represent. Now, we're allowed to come up with our own things in and around and whatever. Bottom line is, I would never support late-term abortion. I can look at the really, really early stuff and I can go, I don't support it, but I can also understand why people would do it. I can look at it and I can go, if you were pregnant and it was severely disabled and you decided to terminate in the first handful of weeks, I could go, okay, look, fair enough. That's not my place to tell you what you can or can't. And I know you guys disagree, and I've got no problem with that.
I hate it altogether. But go ahead, keep going.
Which is fine. And it's not like I'm ever going to be pregnant. But as far as all the stuff Riccardo mentioned before, I'm in agreement. The fact that they run around, you and I have discussed it, Dio. You see these lunatics with T-shirts saying, I've had 54 abortions. How fucking good am I? You're a fuckwit. There's absolutely no support in my world for that. You know, but I can look at that early stage stuff and I can go, look, I don't support it. I'm not proud of it. I don't go, what a great thing for Aussies to be doing. But I can go, okay, I'm not in that position. I can understand when they navigate that area, and that's how I look at it. I'm not going to be pregnant anytime soon, and I've got no problem with saying that out loud. I'm not for abortion, but I don't condemn the people in that early stages. If you get to full term and you'll see, oh shit, I've changed my mind, you're a fucking idiot. There's no ifs, buts, and maybes about it. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and that's
I understand.
You've got common ground, Dean. The common ground, as you say, there is disagreement at the front end, but let's be sensible about this. Let's agree that full-term abortion is wrong, and let's start the debate, because this is one of those debates that nobody will have. But we've got to have the debate, and Australians have to make up their mind. And it's their call. This is a test for Australia. This Eden Monaro election, and I know people are worried about their lives, but this is a test for the Australian people. And it'll be really interesting to see which way they go, because I've got to tell you, we're heading down a very bad road. I've spent most of my life in countries not like Australia. And I've got to tell you, we are so lucky. We're so lucky because we've got this brilliant country where everyone gets a fair go and we don't get too head up about stuff. And when you've got to take one for the team, you do it. But I've got to tell you, that's based on a Christian foundation, because I've lived in a lot of countries that don't have a Christian foundation, and it's bloody awful there. It is appalling. Just not nice. Okay, here's one. Afghan. There's a game in Afghan called, and there's Piers Taylor. Good question, Piers. I want you to ask that question. Where's the cutoff? Tell you what, you contact Penny Wong and Tanya Plibersek and ask them when the cutoff is, because those two cowards, and there's no point calling them cowards because they don't value courage. The pair of them, they should be removed. They really should. Emily's List. Emily's List is a Labor, all-female Labor faction. And Emily stands for early money is like yeast.
They shame the word woman.
They fund women who will promote full-term abortion. That's the test. Gillard was a member. All the great female Labor luminaries were members. And this faction drives full-term abortion throughout the country. So that's a great question. And that's what a question I want everybody to ask. Where's the cutoff? Because they don't want the question. They just want full-term abortion on demand.
Mate, and that woman over in New Zealand, she's been flying the same flag, mate.
Jacinda.
It's the sort of thing that should. It's not something that should ever be celebrated. I mean, I don't understand that side of it at all. I can understand certain tragic circumstances, blah 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 blah, and go, okay, fair enough. But mate, when you see them absolutely championing it like it's a sport, you just think you people are all fucking crackers. I've got nothing in common with you people. You're all broken, And as for the statesman-like speech, Riccardo, I've always found you very statesman-like and far more honest than the usual dickheads. I, on the other hand, try to keep a real I don't want them to mistake me for a politician. It really, it bugs me it bugs me. You're just one of them. No, I'm really not, and I answer to none of them. I have allegiance to none of them, and I can't be bought and sold. I really just don't care what they want, mate.
And that's why we need you in Parliament, Dean, and I mean that absolutely sincerely. Absolutely sincerely. We need you in. You can't be bought and sold, neither can I, and that's the first requirement for a public servant.
Criteria check.
You and I could have a ball rattling their cages, but again, the challenge is how do we get in there and make that difference? Because I don't know if you've come across David Leyonhjelm very often, and people like him or loathe him depending on, but he got into a lot of trouble. And I was watching an old video that he did he was on with Beattie and Reith, so two Labor former premiers. On Sky News, and one of the things they said, you're the politician everybody likes, but nobody's allowed to admit that they like, because at least we always know where you stand on everything. Now, the one thing about David Leyonhjelm, love him or loathe him, and me and him have had some fantastic barneys, on different things at different occasions. Like we don't always agree on everything either, but you always knew where he stood. He couldn't be bought and sold. He's got more than enough independent wealth that he just doesn't care, and he's stuck by his guns. And the minute he had the fallout with the, with the Greens Party, oh well, he's not backing down. Well, no, that's what you want out of a politician. Australians people spend all year going, politicians are all weak, they're incompetent, they're all liars, they're all bullshit artists. None of them do the right thing. None of them do what they say they're going to do. And then when they get people that do all those things, they get scared and they vote for Scott Morrison or Anthony Albanese or any of their conspirators. Yeah, it's all bullshit.
My father warned me many years ago when I was a young boy. I was watching some film and he said, yeah, in the movies they love the loner, the gunslinger that comes into town and cleans up the town. But in real life they loathe you.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I don't need any more friends. The last lot cost me too much, so I'm good. I'm happy to play the role in the Magnificent Seven, clean up the town, and then leave. Because I have no desire to be a lifetime politician. I want to get in, clean it up, and get out.
Yeah, and look, and I guess the scary part is how far can we get it whereby it is cleaned up? Like, I mean, Trump's talking about draining the swamp, and anybody who's watched anything that I do and have done is, I've always admitted that I like the guy. I find him entertaining as shit. I don't agree with all of his policies, and anybody who agrees with all of anybody's policies, I think, is disingenuous in and of themselves. But Trump went in to clean out the swamp. I think he's making some impact. But when he's gone in 4 years' time, unless Don Jr. and then Eric and all the rest of them line up, I wouldn't mind seeing Ivanka as the first female president. I think she and I would make a very good first couple.
I think Trump's smart enough to have a succession plan. Don't worry about that. Trump's playing a very smart, long game.
JFK Jr.
There you go.
You would have heard that one, surely.
Yeah, but the fact is, Trump's smart enough to have a good succession plan. I'm a big Trump fan. I dedicated my book to him. And here's your classic case. Here's your classic case of I love the guy. I mean, we made money on him too. We knew he was going to win, so we made some money. So that helps. But it's more a case of you don't like the guy, but he's doing what's required. And here's what I found today when I was up in Yass. I got that. And what's the word? I was telling my wife about it. Not contempt. It's worse than contempt.
Resentment?
No. It was from a sort of a dyed-in-the-wool liberal who doesn't want his world view challenged. So he's got a view of the world, this guy.
Cognitive dissonance?
It's all good if everyone just sat down and did what they were told.
Mm.
And the seething contempt he had for me, because I was explaining, as you do, it's an educative process to explain, well, the world isn't quite as nice as you think it is, buddy, because you're comfortable. That's nice. That's great. But, Jack and Earl aren't doing so well, and this is a nation state. Their vote's as good as yours. And, the seething contempt on his face, it was extraordinary, because we're going to rattle cages, mate, you and I. And how long is it going to take? Decades. This is a decades-long process, without a doubt. Because, as I've said many times, there's not one section of society that hasn't been corrupted. Politicians, judges, police, the military, the church, the media. If you sit there long enough, and I'm lucky enough to be old enough to have watched the tide come in and out many, many times now, and this is decades long, and the work won't be done. You and I won't. Yeah, no, I'm moving fast.
Well, we're going as quickly as the system allows, mate.
Fix it, Dean. Fix it, Riccardo. Hurry up.
Somebody asked me the other day, how long's it, when are you going to take over? And I said, well, how soon do you want it? Because I'm doing my bit, and that's up to you.
Yes,
get organised.
Yeah, that's right.
We are all in our
join somebody else, but get organised.
People sit there and they go, we're really happy that you're running. Did you vote for me? Oh, no, I voted for you. I've always voted Labor my whole life. Then fucking don't worry about cheerleading for me. It means nothing. I can't rattle any cages. And people say to me, why do you run? I've done a couple of elections now, and people go, why do you do it if you know you're not going to get elected? Because I can sit on their side of the table and call them out. It's easy to look like a lunatic in a crowd going, you're a liar, bastard, da 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 da. You just, that's just some prick in the crowd. If you're on the table, as a candidate, they have to listen to you. It gives you a different layer of credibility. They might all go, "You're mad," which I get all the time, which I can live with. I don't care. I'm mad because I call out their bullshit. I just don't care. And the reality of it is, I do it so I can sit on that side of the table with the other candidates and go, "I'm sorry, but you're stealing from the people. I can't justify any of your existences. Like the amount of bureaucrats that I just can't justify what the frig they do. And here we are as a society, we're paying these, or more to the point, they're stealing from us first. Now, I think we've probably got similar views taxation-wise. And,
I'll get to those questions.
Oh, okay, right there. Oh, right, well, we won't get onto that. But essentially, they rob us blind so they can live like kings and then redistribute our money back to us like Happy Meals for kids at sport. It's all bullshit. The whole lot.
I agree.
A diversity manager. Yeah, we've got half a dozen of those in each bloody Shire council, mate.
All right, shall we move on to the next question? We went on a tangent there, but a relevant tangent, but we still went on a tangent. Okay, this is a very good question to ask. What is your both of your personal views on politician salaries, political or personal opinions on politician salaries?
Where you go, Dean?
Oh, right,
okay, Dean, you go first. I was like, I've let Riccardo go first every time. It's your turn. Go ahead. It's your show, Dean.
One of the first things, we've actually been running a bit of a tongue-in-cheek ad with a photo of ScoMo, Albo, Teach Kids How to Sex band, and with the funniest faces we could, with a Dean McCrae wants to do a discount 20% off on all useless politicians. Like, that's been one of our ads, because obviously I'm doing this with a bit of a tongue in cheek, and I'm going to keep my sense of humour throughout it. And the bottom line is, if they were even halfway genuine at supporting this, how come you're still hiccuping on channel? What's wrong with you?
Sorry. Just keep talking.
But if they were even halfway fair income, they would have taken a pay cut without me having to call them out. And people go, "Well, how are you going to enforce that?" I can't enforce it. All I can do is try and shame them into it. It's the only power I have at the stage that I'm at, is I can shame them into it. And 20% would be very generous. I would much rather see them take 50% cut. I had somebody ask me the other day, "Would you be willing to take the average Australian salary to do the job?" And my answer was yes. My campaign team are going, "Did you just say that?" You just, yep. Yeah. And I've got a couple of guys, as Riccardo does, who are, voluntarily helping, and, we're trying to make a difference, and they're doing a cracking job. I'd be buggered without them. And yes, I'd be quite happy to take the average salary of everybody in Australia to go into Parliament, rattle cages, and give them a hard time. It's, it's all bullshit. These guys are all overpaid. The top level bureaucrats are all overpaid. I mean, we've got a doctor on $600,000, and the argument of, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, is a fairly variable argument. When they ask me that, I go, "So are you saying all of our volunteer firefighters are monkeys? Is that what you're saying?" Because they serve because they choose to serve. They choose because they want to help, and they want to try and improve the country they're in. Calling them monkeys, I think, is pretty fucking rude, to be fair.
Go ahead, Riccardo. What are your thoughts on politician salaries?
Oh, well, again, we're having a bit of a love fest here. 2 points. The rate that they're paying themselves is obscene. They always get their increases. There's no productivity measurement like everybody else has to put up with. So the salaries are just wrong. The senior public servant salaries are just wrong. There is an element of service in this. You don't get paid this because you want to make money.
No.
And the allowances are the trick. Jacko gets in, so he gets an allowance to rent a house, but that's Robbo's house, and then Robbo lives in Jacko's house, and they have a property portfolio of 4, 5, 6, 7 houses before they leave Canberra. It's just nonsense. It's just absolute nonsense. It's just wrong. And then the COVID thing, the shameless way they just said, "We're all in this together." Really? Well, I mean, I'm in Canberra at the moment. I've got to tell you, thankfully the politicians all slithered out and left the place. But unaffected. They live in COVID land down here. Everything's fine. Nobody's lost a job. Nobody's lost a customer. Nobody's had to shut anything down. And they just sit back and they nod and pay each other, the average punter's money. It's just, these guys are They need to be removed. They really do. They need to be removed.
All right, what's my next question? Let's have a look. How much of the salary are you willing to cut out if either of you is awarded the candidacy, and where would you redistribute it? Because Trump, as we all know, Trump is actually working as president for free. So go ahead, Dean, you start. Where would you redistribute the money?
You can only do what I've just said, and that is even if we were one of us was elected in the Eden Monaro, neither of us would have the power to blanket make everybody else take a pay cut. That's
no, but you would. Where would you redistribute that money?
I would be quite happy to take a pay cut, and then it'd just be a matter of working out which charities you can donate, because you can't legally just give it back. So
you can't just give it to the potholes. You can't just give it to the hospital.
If you actually, to the best of my understanding of how the system works, if I walk in there and say, no, I don't want that much money, you're overpaying me, the rules are in place, so you've still got to actually accept it, and then you've got to bugger it off to prove a point. So it's actually the way, as I understand it, written and worded, is so that you have to. You can't be out there on an island on your own.
So what issues in the Eden Monaro, in a hypothetical universe, where would you put that money? What do the townspeople want?
The first things that need to be done is everybody who lost their houses or businesses in the fires need the money to rebuild. They need to rebuild. They've got, there are people who have, had lives, businesses, the whole shoot and match, all gone, obliterated, and there's millions of dollars sitting in charities. They're handing out bullshit pay rate rises to our welfare dole community, and yet these poor buggers who have worked hard to build houses and businesses haven't got them anymore. But that's all right. Who cares? We've got a bigger welfare pool than we've ever had before, which means more control.
All right, Riccardo, same question. Would you take the pay cut, and where in a universe would you redistribute the money if you could?
Well, the money, find some way to get it back into consolidated revenue and just cut your expenditure. Just retire debt, stop spending money. Just stop spending money. That's what's got to happen. They're spending money like drunken sailors, and I've had a couple of runs ashore with drunken sailors, and they can spend money pretty fast.
I believe you. You're built like a tank.
Well, yeah, they've got to stop spending the money. That's it. It's a con.
Oh, the whole thing
said, when are we going to debate something? We need something to disagree on, Dean, before they all leave.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on taxes, both of you? And then we'll open it up to audience questions, because I don't.
You're not going to get the variance will be a couple of percent, and which way it gets managed better.
I said debate/discussion. I made sure to say discussion because I know you guys like each other. Yeah. Taxes.
How do you feel about Sarah Hanson, young Riccardo? Would you take her on a date?
I've got a strong stomach. I've seen some pretty gruesome stuff.
I thought you guys were going to talk bad about any other politician.
No deal.
No deal.
I'm trying to think of something we might have a difference of opinion on, but I just don't know what that would be. I looked at the policy platform you put out earlier in the week, and I'm sure you've looked at the Lib Dems before. It was here probably 6 months ago that I first reached out and said, mate, what's the story? This is when you were still with the Australian Conservatives, I think, and I'd sort of said, mate, I think if we get an opportunity to work together, we should, because the variance is this much. There's very little, and Corey Bernardi and Lionhelm used to get along quite well, to the best of my understanding. There's a lot you can work with in that field, because your conservative values and most libertarian. There's a lot of lineup. It was funny with James Fox on your show the other night, Dia, talking about proletarians.
Yeah.
And
proprietarianism.
Proprietarianism. Yeah, that's right. And they sort of shape up in the sphere of right-wing leaning libertarians. It's that real super autistic, super intelligent. And even James Fox was saying, he said they were all mad, but they were brilliant, and that's the hard part. There's so much to agree on that, it's not going to be a blood sport. With the enemies out there, and I keep saying it with a lot of your audience and friends, Dia, and I like most of them, but you're kind of going, we're all supposed to be on the same side. And if we're going to go to war over two policy differences, that's fucking moronic, and that's why the extreme left dickheads are winning. They're running amok because they'll agree with each of them on anything. Do whatever you like. Whereas the people on the sensible right and sort of centrist are arguing over bullshit.
Yeah. People want to know if we are brother and sister.
I'm far prettier than Dia.
We're housemates. That's it.
She's in love with me, but I'm busy.
Apparently. Does anyone have any? Okay. What pissy leaks, Pete? Question: what is your view on gun control? Both of you. Do you want to start us off on that one, Dean, and we'll move on to Riccardo?
Yeah. The LDP has a pretty solid policy on gun control. We're actually for anybody who is, a track record of non-violence. We think there should be solid licensing, of course. We don't want just any fucking maniac running around with guns, but there shouldn't be any restrictions on the type of gun you're allowed to have, as far as we're concerned. And I'm not a consistent shooter or anything. It's not like a hobby, but if you're vetted to be a sensible, responsible adult with no criminal record, no history of out of order violence, carry on. I've got no problem with you walking around with a bazooka like they do in America, as far as I'm concerned. If you want to buy a tank and drive it down the street, with it, as long as you're not aiming at people and causing violence, go nuts.
Riccardo?
Yeah, not quite that far, mate. There are limits because they're my tools of trade. So bazookas and tanks, we don't have a Second Amendment. But short answer to that, we have a big libertarian streak in our party because we're big on personal freedoms, and that is the right to self-defense. And there's an old line that when minutes count, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. We believe that every individual has a right to self-defense, which means they should be able to defend themselves, and that includes firearms. Now, the detail, obviously, licensing, yes, no problem with that. Training, yes, absolutely. But no, there should be no restriction on an individual's right to protect themselves. Concealed carry is a separate matter. Now, that's the philosophy. The trouble is the days of Smiley's got a gun. I don't. You guys are both too young to remember this, but there was an old Australian character called Smiley. He was a rapscallion of a little boy, blonde-headed kid. Chips Rafferty was the local sergeant. He was the copper, and he used to look after him and keep him on the straight and narrow. And there was a movie called Smiley Gets a Gun. So there's Smiley at age 12 doing good deeds to get his own weapon. So back then, the average Australian had no problem with the idea of gun ownership, and we didn't have a problem in the country that would have caused any concern to us. That has now changed. And I'll tell you this story. When I first joined my first battalion, I just graduated as a second lieutenant, flew up to Townsville. The battalion had already deployed. And I was hooked up with a sergeant, and he and I flew commercial air to the training area. And I said, "What's the drill with the weapon, Sergeant?" He said, "Sir, take the breech block out, put it in an envelope, hop on the plane, give the breech block in the envelope to the hostie, and then you just put your weapon above your seat." Now imagine if you saw a couple of civvies walking into an airport with, I had an M16, he had an SLR 7.62. And we handed the host the envelope. She smiled. This was standard operating procedure. And we walked on board with our aircraft. The world, Australia, was a very different place then. Very different place. Now we have extremists that are flooding into the country, courtesy of our lunatic federal governments, which are doing it on purpose. And I wouldn't trust the average Australian, because the average Australian now includes people that don't have the same set of values that you and I might share. And that's by design. So, yes, I have a real... hankering to give people the right to self-defense. But again, this is an issue that needs to be eased in progressively. Otherwise, we risk bad things happening because too many lunatics are out there and they have an agenda to destroy us.
Okay. What about this one? What are your stances on gay marriage?
I will disagree on this one. I'm quite happy for any consenting adults to do pretty well whatever they want, whenever they want, in that capacity, as long as they're not indoctrinating others. So where I get pissed off with the whole gay marriage thing is the whole, why you got to shove it in people's faces. Riccardo's a married man. He doesn't ring me and go, guess what? I have a wife. Who cares? That's your personal choice. What you do in your bedroom, certainly none of my business and none of the government's business. As far as I'm concerned, 2 consenting adults, and certainly no indoctrinating children. The hell is wrong with these people in that capacity? But if you want to be 2 gay men, you know, that's your bedroom, that's your house. I really don't care. None of my business.
Mm.
If that was as far as it went, it probably wouldn't be a problem. But the trouble is, if 2 homosexuals, 2 gays, 2 lesbians, whatever, if that is the equivalent of 2 heterosexuals, then gender no longer counts. And there's your problem. Philosophically,
Yes.
this isn't, we're not talking prejudice or anything else, just philosophically, gender doesn't count. And when gender doesn't count, everything falls apart. So our policy is this. First of all, the plebiscite was rigged and wrong. It was a con.
Easily.
Turnbull lied. Now, if the Australian people genuinely want it, and they really want it, and they've had 2 years, they've had a few years test of this now, and they've seen what happens when male and female are considered equal. They're not. And now we've got the indoctrination. Now we've got, you know, pedophile story time. Now we've got, because you can't discriminate according to sex. I discriminate according to sex all the time. All my girlfriends were girls. I discriminated according to sex. There you go.
Are you sure? Did you check?
Well, I did won the courtesy of a reach around once, but there you go. That's my rudeness for tonight. I also discriminate against according to sexual orientation. I will never hire a pedophile. I don't give a rat's ass. So I do discriminate against sexual orientation. Now, here's what people don't know about this. Love is love. Bollocks. What they're going to say is what they already have said is love is love, regardless of sex, regardless of colour, and now they're adding regardless of age. Because if you go back to the gay rights protests in the 80s, it used to be LGBTP, and the pedophiles were there. They're part of the spectrum. Ask Penny Wong.
Oh,
Forget
Lord.
it. No. So Australians genuinely want they want a homosexual marriage to be equal to heterosexual marriage. Then let's have a proper referendum, because that's our policy. Let's have a fully informed, fully funded, proper referendum, not one that was rigged and lied about, and there are bollocks results. And now the Australians have had a taste of it. Now, if they go with it, then that's fine. They go with it. I'll still disagree, but they go with it. But it was a lie. The whole thing was a lie. The second point is, it's about kids. It is about kids. You can't have it, because now you can't have Father's Day and Mother's Day, because some people don't have a dad and don't have a mum. So it's, you know, special parent guardian day. Give me a break. We've got a 15th of the population with an issue, and all of us have to bend over. Forget it.
15? She said 15.
Forget it. No, a 15th. Oh, that's
a real legitimate word.
3/5 of 5/8 of fuck all. It's a very small amount.
I don't think that word's allowed.
And I don't give a rat's ass about what that percentage of the population wants in destroying what has taken thousands of years for us to realise what's best for a society. And this nuclear family is the best for the society, and that's how it works. So no, here's a big disagreement. No, gay marriage, forget it. It's gonna tear it apart.
Absolutely. This is for you specifically, Riccardo. There is a messaging problem. I was sent a speech of yours from a Croatian friend. Weeks later, it was removed from YouTube. How do we combat this frustration? I don't think Riccardo has the power to combat YouTube.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Let me deal with this. Speak to Scott Morrison, who is tightening up the internet rules because he's under control of somebody else. We've got shocking internet controls here. They shut down 4chan. They shut down 8chan. They allow Twitter. They allow Twitter to promote radical Islamic threats, and yet that same great liberal government, and they should take that name out. They really should, Dean, because they don't deserve it anymore. They are the communists. They prevented a pro-life
the Closet Socialist Party of Australia, I've redubbed them, mate.
Yeah, well, they prevented a pro-life speaker coming to Australia about 3, 4, 5 years ago. I can't remember. They just prevented him from coming in. They let everybody else come in, but not a pro-life speaker. This is Scott Morrison's Liberal Party, and for all those rusted-on libs, Christian. You know, I love you, like brothers and sisters, but for Christ's sake, can you please wake up and realise you're supporting the destruction of your own grandchildren? You really are. And so are the rusted-on Labours. Get out. And the good news is for us, A1 is attracting, like the LDP does, they're attracting both your traditional Liberal and traditional Labor voters, because we are big on freedom, but we're big on the foundations that have built us into the country of choice. You know, let's face it, people aren't making a beeline to Bangladesh.
The West is best.
The West is the best. There really is. Okay. Oh, yeah.
right.
So that the internet censorship. Yeah, we've got appalling censorship here. Appalling censorship. We've turned into
Pretty bad.
a prison country. They won't let it. So vote for people who will open up the internet and allow you to read what you want to read and see what you want to see within the limits of within the limits of good law, not opinion.
Okay, this is a fantastic question because both of you can relate to this on some level. What is their stance on parental alienation of children? So children not being able to be with their, I would translate that more to fathers, but it happens on both ends. What are your thoughts on that? Either one of you can jump in.
I'll kick off.
Go ahead.
You can thank the family law system for putting me exactly where I am today. Because like most guys, I was there, and full disclosure, I've been married 3 times. First time I was a dick. That's the only way to say it. Second time, well, I'll leave that alone. And the third time, perfection. Now, having said that,
she's great.
I was like everybody else. You know, I had a career in the military. I thought that life was pretty good. Australia was pretty good. The politicians were largely dopes, but they more or less kept us on track. And then I went into the family law system, and not to drag it out, but here are the facts. After 8 years and $500,000, which I didn't have sitting around in my kitty, I can tell you, and I'm one of the lucky ones, 8 years and $500,000, I got custody of my son. Now, listen to the stats. 17% of men get custody, so I was against the odds there. 2, I was overseas. 3, I was in a Muslim country. 4, there was no Hague Convention, there's no extradition treaty, and yet I still got custody. Now, what does that tell you of the merits of the case that took the morons in the family court system and the moronic lawyers that say, oh, this will be sorted out in 2-3 years. And I'm looking at my son, the guy's falling apart. And on top of that, specifically with the parental alienation, I can't make statements that won't get me in jail. So let me just say, I've had close friends who have had the system support both husbands and fathers and mothers alienate the kids. Now, there's a side aspect to this that a lot of people don't realise. Why is it in everybody's interest to have such a shocking family law system? Well, it's not. The mums and dads don't. We just want to get on with our lives. But here's the thing. Did you know that pedophiles target singles mums and they call it farming? They farm kids because there's a single mum, she's struggling, and all of a sudden the pedo turns up and he's a helpful man and he does things around the house and he ingratiates himself into the family, and then he decides to take the kids. I'll take the kids tonight. You deserve a night out. So these things are all interconnected. I know it's gone further than you like on the parental alienation, but none of these issues exist in isolation. They are all intricately linked to each other.
It hasn't gone further than we'd like, because I'm 100% with you on the whole. The family court system is an absolute shambles. The government system around families is a shambles. I look at it very similarly. You take it from a direct, just the pedos. I also take it from a slightly different perspective. By nature, and again, I'm going to sound like a sexist bastard here, women are generally more agreeable than men. So I'm happy to pick a fight with somebody I disagree with. I can't stand the government parasites. I'll get stuck into them. The system as it's set up rewards women for removing men from the home. I have friends who have, and female friends who have sort of ended up in that single mum block, which I'm usually pretty harsh on them about some of it. You know, do not treat him like a bastard because he's been a pretty good bloke to you, X, Y, Z. They will go into any government-related building, be it a doctor's surgery, a hospital, a fucking Centrelink office. Well, if you say that he bashed you, we will give you more money. We will reward you if you can demonise this bloke further than is legitimate, which sends me completely wild. But my theory behind the reason they do it, not just because pedos are fucking scumbags, but because you've got politicians in government trying to replace. How do you take over a family? You take out the defence, you take out the strength of the family, which is a man's traditional role in the family, is to be that. You're the brick, you're the rock, you're the support network, and it's your job to protect the woman and the children. They're rewarding women for removing men from the home. Women are more pliable, so the next generation of kids are being raised to think all these things are perfectly all right. You don't need a man. The government will look after you. We'll take care of it. There's things like, when you look at things like the legal aid system, if she goes to court first and says, I need legal aid, you end up with a bill like yours, Riccardo, to see your kid.
Yeah.
And hang on a minute, how come she's entitled to taxpayer-funded representation, but you're not? Oh, well, it's a conflict of interest. The whole thing is a conflict of interest. There is nothing non-conflict of interest about the family law, the child support system, any of that shit. It's corrupt to the core. It's absolute circus from top to bottom, and it needs to be brought down, collapsed, and then you sit down and you go, okay, what's a sensible way to do this, where there aren't winners and losers? There are two people who are looking after a kid in a capacity that they voluntarily agree upon, or, you know what I mean, that they work out as adults.
As a start, it should be rebuttable shared parenting, meaning if you want to split up, that's fine, you split up. But it's 50-50 and it's rebuttable. So if there is evidence of a reason why one or other of the parents should be removed from the child's life, then present the evidence. But this nonsense, exactly right, this nonsense where one will make outlandish claims, and in one case, given a checklist by the lawyer, if you tick these boxes, you will get custody regardless of the facts of the case. So the start point is rebuttable shared parenting, shared parental responsibility, they call it now. And it's not, you pay 100% and I'll keep him 100% of the time. This is 50-50, and they'll have this nonsense about, oh, well, it's destabilizing for the child. No, it's not. It's a whole lot less destabilizing than having a parent ripped out from under them and saying, where's dad gone? Where's mum gone? Can I see dad? Oh, no, you can't see dad. He's a bastard. What's a bastard, mum? Yeah. No, rebuttable shared parenting start point. And just while we're at it, so I can stick a finger in the eye of the Chief Justice of the Family Court. I'm
hoping he's watching, mate. I really am.
She, Bryant. Unless they've had a change recently, I haven't been paying attention.
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, now what's a judge's primary skill set? To judge, right? To assess facts, to make wise decisions given the circumstances. This moron put on a sex show where the stage show was a couple of women in judicial robes simulating sex. Now, this is the Chief Justice of the Family Court. Now, this is years ago, and she might have actually been moved on. But nothing happened, of course, because the judge is beyond judgment. Now, if she is so bloody stupid as to have that poor level of judgment, how does it work? How does it reflect on the capacity of her jurisdiction, let's call it, to apply judgment anywhere? I mean, the judges are beyond judgment. They're just perfection. Well, no, they're not. They're not. They're human. They make mistakes. A lot of pedophiles there. We know that too.
Yeah.
So the family court, the judges and the lawyers, it's a sick business.
Well, mate, and the last one on that topic before we move on to, because I'm quite happy to jump on to safe, affordable electricity, but I've got a friend of mine who, relative to the pedophilia shit, is his theory behind the whole, the hormone blockers.
Oh yeah.
Let's cut them off while they're kids, so that then you don't have to worry about dropping the age rate. You're just dropping, so they look like kids when they're in their late teens. When they're in their 20s, they're still babies. The pedos don't have to drop the age limit. Oh, well, look at my 30-year-old wife who looks like a 5-year-old.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Well, that's his theory behind it, was that sort of, make them look younger, keep them looking younger, and then you don't have to worry about changing age of consent laws.
Just before we jump on to the next subject, this is a nice little segue. In Victoria, and now I believe in New South Wales, your school is authorised to reassign sex of your child without your knowledge. Now, this isn't theory.
I knew this.
Check it out, go online, and if anybody votes for Liberal or Labor, you want your head read. Your principal, and it says it in black and white, your principal can agree with your child that Johnny is now Jane and he can wear a dress at school and be called Jane, but you won't be told as the parent. Gladys Berejiklian and Comrade Dan have passed it. It's in their documents. I use it in my talks. Now, listen, folks, I don't care who you are or what you are, but if you vote Liberal or Labor, you want your head read. Seriously, do you want this happening to your kids? Can you not see what's happening? I mean, I get so frustrated because I sit there calmly explaining this stuff and then people look at me and go, oh, it can't be that bad. No, really, Gladys is lovely. I like
Sure.
Scotty. He's a good Christian. Oh,
Yeah.
you know, Comrade Dan, he's a good Catholic boy too.
It's in the fruits. It's in the fruits.
When you actually posted those links up on your A1 page, so anybody who's watching that doesn't realise, yes, I am LDP, but I watch your page. I support it, you know, generally speaking, because we do have a lot in common. And I saw that post, and I was very quick to share it. My mother works in the education system, and I sent her a link, and I said, "Are you trying to tell?" Because about 2 years ago, with all that safe schools shit, I said to her, "Is this in New South Wales yet? Because this is bullshit." No,
Your mum didn't believe me.
my mum's lovely, but she would
She
never
didn't
go.
believe me.
There's no way they'd go that far. And so I sent her your link on that one, and I said, "Are you fucking sure, Mum? Because it looks like they're going that far. This is what they're doing, and it's all really wrong."
And it's been done in New South Wales as well now too.
Mate, the whole thing's disgusting, and you know, like, stop pulling parents out of the home at every level and every opportunity you get. That's bullshit.
Well, here's one of the
Yeah,
measures, one of the metrics, one of the practical metrics that our party really wants. So you can have policies, but it's the end state that counts. In the military, we always talk about an end state. What are you working towards? Now, if we can have in Australia, because we should be stinking rich, we have a sovereign wealth. We should have a sovereign wealth fund of $1 trillion and no debt. That's how rich we should be, but we're not. But here's a metric: if we can have a family where one parent is the breadwinner and one parent is raising the kids, and I don't care whether it's mum or dad, it's none of my business who raises the kids. But there's a measure where the government's done the right thing. They've created an environment where mum and dad can raise their family. One breadwinner only is required. They can buy a house, they can educate their kids and have a great life on one income. Now, that's a really powerful metric, and every aspect of social policy that we design is designed to aim to achieve that. Because all of a sudden, we've got a parent at home and you don't have your kids being sent off to school at 6 months because mum and dad are breaking their backs to pay lunatic electricity bills or fund $91 million paychecks from the Liberal government to the Palestinian terrorists. But this is not hard. None of this is hard. I'll tell you what's hard. It's keeping your temper down and getting rid of the scum that are selling out the country. That's the hard bit. But the problems of government are simple when you're honest anyway.
We budget $4 billion just on foreign aid alone to send money to the Philippines to buy new helicopters for their military.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry, that $4 billion can be used in a mile of you know, different things. We have some of the best resources in the world. So to move on to affordable electricity, Jenny, you know, like, I am an advocate for nuclear power. I think we should, at the very least, be making it legal to explore ways to make it viable. I'm against all electricity subsidies from government.
You're on Jenny Mendez now?
Yeah, Jenny Mendez. I don't know Jenny, I don't think, but hi, Jenny.
No, I was like, I was like, when are we going to answer the question on the screen?
Sorry, we're moving over there. You know.
Yeah, good. Sorry, I wasn't. Yeah, sorry. Keep going. You're an advocate for nuclear power.
I'm a nuclear power advocate, and one thing that people jump onto Fukushima and they jump straight onto Chernobyl and they jump onto the major disasters. What most people don't know about Fukushima, it wasn't caused. The nuclear reactor problem wasn't caused by a nuclear reactor. Japan had one of the biggest earthquakes they've ever had, followed by a 10-foot tsunami that then caused fallout onto a nuclear reactor. Now, from my understanding of what went down, from actual the nuclear reactor, there was only a very small number of deaths, and then there's a little bit of radiation problem. And I'm not saying that to trivialize it, but relative to what the damage of something like Chernobyl did, it was a completely different ballpark because the technology is different. And the thousands of people that died of earthquake, flood, and a little bit of nuclear. But when you actually go through and you do a bit of homework on it, most people that died in that tragedy were killed by the tsunami and the earthquake. And the other thing,
he's getting on my nerves.
He's getting on your nerves. It looks like your lap, not your nerves.
Whatever. Keep going.
The other thing people don't realise, so for all the greenies out there that are sort of completely off with the fairies on power, you want zero. You want zero emissions. Nuclear gives you zero emissions. There is actually technology, and I've just started my homework on this technology where they're almost in a position to fully recycle the used nuclear waste, which will mean a lot of nuclear waste. So I'm really looking forward to studying that more. The other side with it is wind and solar are never ever going to we're never going to be capable of running an entire country on just just wind and solar. Batteries, we don't have the technology to store the battery, but countries like France are run on 70% of nuclear as we speak. And the shortest term and the fastest way to drop some electricity bills is get rid of GST on electricity bills. The government has no reason to want to drop power prices when you're getting a 10% kickback each bill you get. There's a million ways. Sorry?
You know a lot of. I said, wow, I'm quite impressed by your answer. I didn't think you knew anything about electricity or nuclear power.
I'm smarter than they think I am, and I go, that's sort of a backhanded compliment if ever I've got one.
I'm sorry, that's so mean, isn't it?
I do play up.
No, it's Riccardo's turn. Do you have any ideas about affordable electricity?
Oh, you betcha. You kidding me?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
We don't discriminate against colour. We like black coal, brown coal, yellow cake, you name it, we're up for it. Now, so cheap, affordable electricity, here's how it works. South Australia's rolling in uranium. Dig it up. Victoria's got brown coal. Dig it up. New South Wales got black coal. Dig it up. Use whatever you've got. There's also thorium. We have the world's largest reserves of thorium. Now, thorium can be used. The technology's yet to be developed, but I'm sure it can. The thorium can be used to produce nuclear power with virtually no downside. So there's a million options, but basically every state should be independent. This national grid is complete bollocks. Why the bloody hell should South Australia's been sucking power out of Victoria? They should be independently powerful. That's what every state should be. You sort out yourself. You got nuclear, use nuke. You got brown, use brown. Oh, and by the way, for emissions, did you know the O2 levels are reaching a critical level where if it gets much lower, we'll have no life left on Earth? So if you're a real greenie, you're a genuine greenie, get as much CO2 in the atmosphere as you possibly bloody can, because the planet is on a trajectory heading south where we won't have enough CO2.
Good to know. All right, Riccardo, this one's specifically for you from Pissy Leaks Pete. What makes your party different to One Nation?
I get that question a lot because it sounds like we're the same, but we're not. We have similar policies. The policies sound the same, but the end state is very different. And let me get this one out of the way first. The other thing is we're not populated by crooks. Now, I love Pauline Hanson and I love Malcolm Roberts. I think they are stars. I think they're absolute stars, and they say and do more than most of the politicians put together. But the people inside the party make it completely unworkable. So if you think you're voting for the same party, you're not. You're not. Because I'll give you the difficulty of getting into our party. When we open it up for membership, it's going to be tough getting in. You need a working with children's check just to be a member. Forget being a candidate. That's going to be like the 7 challenges of Hercules, the 7 labors of Hercules to become a candidate. But just to be a member, you've got to get a working with kids check. So we are making it so difficult for the party to be shifted left or right. The Constitution, and my brilliant bride was the master behind that.
She's so smart.
Yes, she is. She's sharp as a tack.
She is.
And she's brutal, so don't take her on. I'm a pussycat compared to her. But she wrote a constitution which makes sure that the party can't be swayed left and right, left and right. Every policy must be in accordance with the aims and objectives. And then you need a massive plebiscite, something like, I can't remember the number, 90% to change the policy. So we can't be infiltrated by Greens or anybody else or Liberal or Labor and try to swing us one way or the other. So the structure, the membership, the people are very different. Then finally, the way we decide our policies. And I'll send you this, dear. It's the summary.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah.
Email it to me.
It's really simple. If it contributes to our sovereignty, we're in. If it contributes to our self-reliance, it's in. If it contributes to our economic power, it's in. If it contributes to military power, it's in. If it contributes to social cohesion, it's in. And if it contributes to political freedom, it's in. So it's a really easy set of metrics to decide what we are. So we are more complete. We are philosophically sound. We've got better rules and regulations, and we don't have any troublemakers in our organisation. There you go.
Good answers from both of you on electricity. This one, I suppose, is for you, Dean, because it's about the Libertarian Party. Why does the Libertarian Party in America support the riots, and why should we trust Libertarian politicians in Australia? Some prominent Libertarians in America want to remove age of consent. I don't really think you can comment on other people and their ideas, but go ahead. Try and answer that question, Dean.
Yeah, of course, no problem. I'm more than happy to do what I can. Now, as far as the Libertarian Party supporting the riots, there are is a fair argument for why the riots are happening. You've got, taxpayer-funded thugs murdering people in the street, and I don't care if you're black, white, green, purple. If you're taxpayer-funded, you have very limited reason to be murdering people in the street. So I can see where that argument would come forward for the riots. I imagine, and I haven't seen all that much of what the American Liberal Party, the Libertarian Party, have been up to in this particular field. I've got a couple of friends over there I'd be happy enough to tap up. The prominent libertarians in America want to remove age of consent. I'm not sure which prominent ones you're talking about, but they'd have to be pretty well fucking lunatics. And there are lunatics on the right, there are lunatics on the left, and there are lunatics in the libertarian movement, mate. I would never deny that. I don't know which ones they are, and the ones that get close to me get booted out pretty quickly and pretty hard. As for the riots, though, look, I don't know any libertarians that would support the destruction of private property. But to be perfectly honest, if they wanted to go and burn down the local police station after you've got local police out murdering people, I could fairly well understand why people would want to do that. I don't trust the government. I don't trust the taxpayer-funded thugs they use, although I'm sure many servicemen and women are really good people who try. The difference is you don't want to put all the bad cops in the same club with the good cops. Where the line is, mate, I don't know. As the riots are pretty sad. I think there's a bit of a subversive thing. I had a bit of a chat with Stephen Wells this morning. He's sending me material about where the police are actually dropping off pallets of brick in certain areas in Democrat-controlled states, so that people have the weaponry they need to just crash the buildings and crash cars. I mean, the whole joint's a cul-de-sac in that particular area.
Okay. There's only like one more question from what I see, and then we can probably just wrap up. So, Plains Wanderer. I've only ever voted once. Oh, I'm echoing. Am I echoing to you guys?
No.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. It was for PHON, fun. Will
Full
not.
enhanced information.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Will not my vote go to support PHON if I support libertarians or Bosi? Okay, so this is about like the numbers. The preferences. Go ahead. Go ahead with the preferences, both of you.
Yeah, look, I've been asked about preferences ad nauseum, and the natural question everybody asks is because we've got Liberal in our name and so does the Liberal Party, well, all your preferences will go to them. I can tell you they're at the bottom of the ballot with Labor, Greens and Nationals. I have a feeling Riccardo will have a fairly similar theory, and then the minor parties and the independents will be, navigated on those top few pieces, the few positions on the ballot. Will be sort of juggled in between. A lot of the independents and minor parties we have a little bit in common with. Some, Riccardo and myself, have a lot in common, so we'll probably, I imagine that he'll be fairly high up on my preferences. No official deal done, but I can guarantee the big four will be at the bottom if they make the ballot at all, because we do have the power as candidates to leave certain people off and just go, sorry, I'm not giving you any votes, So I'm not sure. We haven't really strategized exactly where, but I can tell you now the big four will be right down the bottom.
Yeah, and I've got to echo there, exactly right. The big four are at the bottom. Interesting side point, we hope to introduce optional preferential voting, which means if you don't like any of the candidates, you don't vote for them. You can put down as many 1s, 2s, 3s or 4s as you like, and that way you're guaranteed that the last vote doesn't go to the party that you hate most. In fact, one of our members suggested we have a no suitable candidate box, which would be a pretty handy little box to have, and you have to have a re-election. But in terms of preferences, A1 doesn't preference parties, we preference individuals, because you can trust people more than you can trust a party. And we will be looking closely at everybody, and that's the order in which we'll be putting them down. But as Dean said, I have professional respect for Dean, and yes, he's going to be way up there. But once again, folks, do yourselves a favour. Is the one thing that they want you to do, and this is what I get because they suspect that I'm a sort of a closet liberal.
What an insult.
Yeah, it is.
You can blame Corey for that, though, I suppose.
Yeah, I know. But here's the line. I'm neither left nor right. It's about right and wrong. It's not about right and left.
I agree. That's where I am
it's
now.
Right and wrong. So, having said that, Now I've lost my train of thought. What was it? Voting.
Sorry,
Preferences.
that was me. I cut you off.
Yeah,
Preferences.
you put me off with Corey.
Sorry.
So Dan will be high up on the list of the preferences. We own preference parties. We preference people, but don't vote for the majors. Number one, they want your money. Every first preference vote gives them money in the bank. These guys have got their hand in your pocket, whether you know it or not. So let's say the Liberals get up. Labor still gets $2.87, I think, is the current rate per vote.
Over 4%. Over 4%.
Over 4%. Over 4%. If they get paid for every first preference vote. So if you're scared of somebody else getting in, great. Put Liberal and Labor or whoever you want, but don't put them number one.
Yeah.
Keep your money in your pocket. Don't give them number one, because that's why they want your vote. And the Liberals say, "Oh, you'll split the Conservative vote." Well, what they think is that I want them to win. I want to see the Liberals crash and burn because they deserve to. Not the membership. The membership's great. But Scott Morrison and his mates, you better polish up your CV, fellas, because you're going to be out of a job sooner than you think.
I hope so, mate. I'd like to see most of them out on their ass. One of the big newspaper articles the other week, Riccardo, was I think it was the Australian. The headline was, "Even if we lose Eden Monaro, Albo's job is safe." And I'm thinking, half the country's out of work. You dickheads think anybody reading this cares whether that guy's got his 300 grand a year job? Go off.
It's all right, everyone.
This is how deluded and off the planet they all are, you know? Like, it's absolute madness. That is not a headline news. If he loses his job, I don't think people are going to give a shit, because there are people actually who lost businesses, lost their jobs between fires, floods, COVID, and this idiot and his cronies seem to think that that's a top priority, whether or not he's safe. Who cares?
I was going to finish up, but we have a couple of relevant questions, but we will finish in like 10 minutes. Jenny Mendes, thoughts on law and order? Either one of you go for it.
Where you go, Dean?
It's very broad.
We think, well, when we say we, I like to think that law and order should be a function of government, one of the very few that government perform. Government needs to be as limited as possible. Well, yeah, look, and it sort of falls into why we don't have an ICAC on the government. Is all it does is create another layer of bullshit and bureaucracy. All these politicians should be, and corrupt cops and anybody along those lines needs to be held accountable, the same as any of the rest of us who break the rules would be. No special exemptions for any of them. These guys seem to think they're the most special. You know, that police officer in America seemed to think he was special. He's waving at the camera while killing a guy because he thinks he's untouchable. So, you know, I want law and order. I have relatives that are in the services, and I respect them. I like to think they're not broken and corrupt, but I think that it's very, very important that they understand that they're only there to protect and serve the citizens of Australia, not the bureaucrats and politicians in Canberra. And I think sometimes that line gets blurred, and they think that they're there to be Dan Andrews or Gladys Berejiklian's personal hit squads. And I think it's very important that they know their place, and it's just to maintain very basic law and order. That's, you know, not hate speech or any bullshit like that. I think it's really just a functional. Riccardo, I'd like to buy a house off you, or I'd like to do X, Y, Z. Yes, no problem. Bugger you, I'm stealing your cash. You know, like, really, it's only a matter of safety. The no harm principle that I'm always talking about indicates that you shouldn't be inflicting somebody else negatively, and that's the only real role for government law enforcement, as far as I'm concerned, is to make sure that you're not harming someone else. If you want to harm yourself, that's your business. I don't really care what you do to yourself. You're an adult, obviously, and this is in relation to adults. You know, make whatever decisions you want to do. I don't care if you're silly enough to want to smoke pot. I don't care. Now, I don't use any drugs, but if you want to use them and you're not offending or touching anybody else, hurting anybody else, I don't care. You know, but in saying that, the government needs to stay out of our lives, out of our bedrooms, out of our personal lives, and really only minimise the amount of harm done to others, not harm done to ourselves.
All right, Riccardo.
Yeah, the paramilitary police is a real worry. They are becoming the thugs of government. They're there to protect the people, and I've seen and heard of riots where there are the innocents being beaten by the Antifa types, and the coppers just stand there and watch because they're under orders not to interfere. That's bullshit. in anybody's language. Sorry, that's not a copper anymore. They have to step up and stick up with their oath of their office, because to be given the capacity to deliver lethal force is pretty bloody serious business. And the standards and training have to be picked up, and the recruitment has to be picked up, and the bloody police commissioners have to be selected on their capacity to lead, not just get on their knees and bow to whatever the minister rightly or wrongly says. In the military, we are required to disobey unlawful commands. Right? So if the general comes up and says, you shoot that bloke and you're not authorized and it's wrong to do so, you are required to disobey. Why doesn't that law apply to anybody else? Yeah. So I tell you what, you disobey an unlawful command. If you're watching an innocent getting beaten and the copper that doesn't step in, that's not a copper.
Yeah.
That's point number one. Point number two, the reason why this degradation has occurred is pretty simple. Self-government is what we're all after. Self-government. Right? We used to have kings to tell us what to do, and then the idea of self-government was introduced. That was laughed at, but it worked. The great American experiment worked because the people had the capacity to govern themselves, their own individual personal behavior. So the better you can control your own behavior, the less you need the external people sticking their nose in and making life difficult for you. That's what self-government is about. But because the culture has been undermined so profoundly and intentionally, the culture has been destroyed.
It has.
Culture is the center of everything. Everything good that you've got, culture is the center of it. And they are intentionally destroying the culture because there's a whole strategy which I outline on my tapes, my videos you can watch. And so when people say things like, and this is where I have a problem with the libertarians. Libertarianism's great where you've got a moral people. I'm not saying religious, I'm saying moral. Yeah. But in the old days where you got Milton Friedman and the rest of them saying, oh yeah, let it go as far as you can. That's because Milton Friedman was a moral man. But give it to the lunatics we're importing into the country. Are you kidding me? No, it doesn't work that way anymore because those foundations have been worn away. And now we've got Western kids who don't know right from wrong. They don't know up from down. They don't know black from white. They don't know anything. These two broken girls, parasites have no rights, talking about
women
their
have
pregnancy.
Penises. Sorry, I keep going.
Yeah, it's just insane. They have no idea what they're talking about. So in terms of reining in the lunacy, yeah, only unfortunately because it's currently necessary because the current generation know nothing about nothing, and they're gonna lead us right down the hole. They're gonna vote for lunatics like the Greens and everybody else. So it's a difficult problem and it requires a deft touch to get it right. There's some brutal stuff up front and there's some deeper philosophical issues that have to be addressed at a profound level. And then make sure the country gets back on its track so it can actually govern itself. Yeah. Here, end of the lesson.
Greg Armstrong asks, what does Riccardo think of Pauline Hanson's One Nation's court challenge regarding the border closure without funding? A scam for votes?
No, I think it's outstanding. She's doing what's got to be done. She's doing what she can do. It's not like she's got $500,000, $5 million in her pocket to do this. But she's saying what everybody else knows. I'll tell you what the scam is. It's Scott Morrison shutting down the country. It's unconstitutional. What he has done is utterly unconstitutional. And yet no decent lawyers got up and said so. I think, actually, no, I correct myself. There might be one or two. But the fact is it's utterly unconstitutional. But Australians went along with it because they believe the whole scamdemic idea. And so Pauline's doing the right thing by doing it. She absolutely got no problem with that at all. Challenge these bastards because what they love is when we sit back and do nothing. They can't stand pushback. That's the one thing. And when the people realize that they are stronger than they think, when they realize that when 100 people stand up in front of a politician and say, no, you don't, mate, and the polly will wet his big boy pants and we can take control of our country again. And they do what we tell them. We pay them. We're going to have recall elections in our party. Everybody in our party, everybody. If you don't perform, you have a recall election, you get sacked. Our candidates, you don't perform, you get sacked. And what we're going to introduce to this country is recall elections. So the local member has to answer to his electorate 24/7, not once every 3 years at election time. So if he makes promises on election day and then 3 weeks later fails to deliver and enough of his electorate say, it's time for you to go, buddy, they have a recall election, he loses, you get a new member. So until we hold our politicians to account 24/7, and the only way to do that's recall, we're going to continue. So stop voting for the big four, vote for us, get us in there, form your own party, whether it's the LDP or the A1, either way, we're close buddies on this one, and we'll have our private fights in the back in the members' dining room. We'll live stream it for you so you can enjoy the fight. But
Nice.
don't vote for the big four. Vote, get us in there. Let us change the rules so you run your country again.
And don't forget, everybody don't forget, they rule us by fear. The reason everybody stayed at home was fear. Oh, you will all die if you leave the house. You're going to either kill your nana because you could have COVID, or you're going to die. You're going to get this sickness and you're going to die. It's no worse than the bloody glorified flu. It's a bad strain of the flu. The survival rate's epic, and somehow we gave up all of our rights, a whole lot. Oh shit, we better stay at home. Don't leave the house. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo. We'll get arrested. There's a bloke who got arrested for, fined, whatever it was, for eating a kebab in a park, and some guy riding a mountain bike in a national park, and the police have the audacity to go chasing him through the bush so they can arrest him for. He was social distancing right up until you dickheads got there, and and the other side of it is now. A whole bunch. We did an episode, Riccardo. I don't know if you called it. We called it the Paradigm Shift the other week, and we did it talking to two protesters, one in Melbourne and one in Sydney. A young bloke, Fanos Panayides. I could have got his name.
Well done. You pronounced that correctly.
All day to work out his name, and then a young girl. You might have seen her in Sydney, Renee Altacridi, and she was arrested with her son. Tore him apart.
Yeah, seen it.
The whole shit show. We had a really interesting discussion about. Yet here for the weekend, tomorrow and Sunday, they're talking about making protests exempt from anything if they protest in Melbourne and Sydney about the Black Lives Matter stuff. So either you can protest for everything, which in my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're not
sticking yourself to the roads.
Yeah, you're not causing yourself. Well, if you stick yourself on the road and the truck driver runs over you, well, that's self-inflicted, not my problem. Or, if you're out peacefully protesting, I don't care if I disagree with you on the topic. I'll defend your right to peacefully protest. Now, they've banned everybody from protesting, but now they've changed the rules and said, well, we like that kind of protest. That's a government-approved protest. That one's not. So all those people that got fined at those previous protests, if they allow these protests to go ahead tomorrow, which they should, need to be refunded if they've paid any of the fines. They also need to have the fines revoked, because you can't fine one lot and not another lot for a peaceful protest as long as there's no violence. You know what I mean? I mean, the hypocrisy is just off the chart, and they think they can get away with it.
Yeah. All right. Next question. You're right, Dean. Riccardo. So this is a little bit of a dig at you, Dean. The same person. Dean spoke about the riots and had some support for burning down the police stations. What do you think about the riots?
Okay, the right to protest, absolutely. The right to protest and shut down people's businesses, no. You've got to be in your bonnet about something. Go protest in the park, but let businessmen run their business. Protest riots that then start ripping places apart, you get locked up for a long time. Now, there's another level to this. Just understand this. These bullshit protests this weekend in Australia, we're importing a non-story from the US. It is a non-story. And it's been allowed by crooked politicians who are dismantling our country. You don't think Gladys and Scott and the rest of them don't know what's going on? Of course they do.
Yeah,
they get their marching orders from the same people. Now, the protests in the US, they are funded. Now, for most of your listeners will know this. Now, people like George Soros, they fund it. They fund organise. It's a pyramid scheme. If you bring 5 mates, we'll pay you twice as much. And if your mates bring some people, then you get some as well. They pre-stack loads of bricks in car parks. Did you see that videos? The videos, the local council,
I did.
The local councils were delivering loads of bricks, police escorts to start it. So this is not
just left them there.
Spontaneous riot. And burning down a building. Oh, give me a break. I've been in riots in Papua New Guinea. This stuff's nothing. They take off heads there when I was in PNG. And I had to stop a police van. Let me just go sideways about stepping up. There was a police van pulled over a woman that I knew, and I saw them. So I hopped out of the car, and they climbed out the back, and they're all high on buai. Buai is betel nut. They chew with lime. It gives them, it's an aphrodisiac, not an aphrodisiac, gives them a buzz. And I had to persuade these 8 coppers to get back in their van and fuck off, which they did. Now, so I'm not afraid to step up in front of anybody.
You're not.
No.
But men today are not you. Men today are girls.
Well, they should attend my leadership for men
children.
that you know, their stones would drop after the first half hour. But anyway, the protests, they're importing nonsense. These protests are organised and paid for. This is called politically motivated violence. That is the textbook definition of terrorism. Now, Scott Morrison, the man with no balls, and Gladys Berejiklian, the woman with no kids, they don't care. This is politically motivated violence, a textbook definition of terrorism, and they are arresting nobody. Mr. Extra 60,000. What's the New South Wales Police Commissioner? He got a pay rise recently. Mr. $60,000 extra. He's doing nothing to stop terrorism. This is being allowed in our streets, and the moronic kids should be locked up because they get to learn the lesson. You don't get to be a part-time child. Once you turn 18, you're an adult, and adults go to jail. So the fact that this is happening should tell you everything you need to know about the state premiers and the Prime Minister of this country. They are allowing us to be destroyed by people who are paying them to destroy our country. You break a window, you go to jail. You'll kill somebody, you'd lose your life. There's my view. You want law and order? You take a life, you lose a life. Oh, but that's not that doesn't stop it kills them. It'll stop them doing it again. So the facts are really simple. We are being betrayed every minute of every day by Labor, Liberal, Green and National. Every last one of them, because not one has said a word, and not even the heroic characters they think are going to save the party. Here's a tip. I've lived and worked with these guys. You know what they want? They want stasis. They want a quiet life. They want life to go on so their cash flow doesn't stop. That's all they care about.
Ridiculous.
Both sides of politics. Don't think it's about philosophy, because the only three philosophical people, you're looking at them right now. The rest, it's how much is this going to pay me? So no, these protests are complete bullshit. I will not support them. It's imported from the US from a non-issue there. And our politicians should be charged with treason and sedition and locked up for a very long time for letting it happen.
We discussed the treason thing earlier, mate, before we went on air, and as I sort of said to you, I've suggested that, and a few people pointed out to me that we can call them out on it, and very quickly you and I will end up in the same cell going, oh, we're the treasonous ones, apparently, for calling them out. That's how it ended up.
With that. Our policy states we're going to ramp back up the definition of treason and sedition, which Malcolm Turnbull watered down. We're going to ramp it back up again. And for for high treason, you get the death penalty, and for sedition, you get life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. This is serious business. It's not a game. You know, I'm not in this for shits and giggles. I've got better things to do with my life. But I can't stand to see the country that I served for 24 years in uniform and since out of uniform. I can't stand to see it. So this is a fight to the death, and by Christ, I'm ready for it. So I hope Scotty from marketing and all his little quizzling mates in the Liberal Party, and Albanese and his quizzling mates in the Labor Party, and those other two useless parties are ready, because I'm not going to go down.
Is Scotty an alpha male? Sorry, that wasn't mean. All right. Question for Riccardo Bosi. Will the party be running for the next Victorian state election in 2022?
Great question. Short answer, yes. We'll be running everywhere.
Yay! I'll vote for you.
Don't vote for me, vote for yourself. And that's the point I keep telling people. They keep saying, "Oh, you're
whatever." That's what I mean.
Set up a group. Here's how we're doing it. Set up your branch. Get 5 people. Once you've got 5 people, it's an unofficial supporters group. We'll start helping you out. When we get formal as a party, then we'll set you up as a branch, jump through the hoops to become a member, then organise yourselves. And we're going to run it like a military operation. The electorate is your area of operations. You own it. So you get in there and you support and you help and you serve. And the key aspect of our members, they serve the electorate. So I've had a lot of people come up and say, look, I got $50,000. I'd like to run for a Senate seat. Thanks. And I go, thanks, buddy. But guess what? It doesn't work that way. Tell you what, you get out there and you serve your electorate for 2-3 years. You do the sausage sizzle for the local cancer ward. You do the whatever it is. You go collect the jellyfish on the beach so the kids can swim for a couple of years, and you earn the right to represent them. So when it comes to election time, they don't look at the big A1 logo and say, I'm voting for A1. They look at Dia's picture and go, I know Dia. Dia was always out there. She helped us buy the swing set for the kids at the local creche. I'm voting for Dia because I know, like, and trust her. That's the basis of the party. So if somebody wants
I don't want to be a politician.
If somebody wants A1 to run in Victoria, run in Victoria, but you become A1. Same in Queensland. We're Queensland elections coming up in October. We're hoping to have people run in Queensland. Now, this is local, state, and federal, but this is a grassroots movement. I outlined my strategy to my team a week ago, and the key words, I won't tell you what it says, but the key words were, at part of the end state, the criteria for success is we owe nobody anything. There's no net debt, and that means financial and favours. We owe nobody. We do this because we're attracting the right people that want to do good for the country. Nobody's in this for their wallet. I can tell you, it certainly cost me more than I knew it would, but that's fine. I said to the bride, this is going to cost us everything, darling. She said, let's go. And that's the sort of people we need. That's the sort of people we need.
You have no idea the personal financial cost involved in standing up for what you believe in. It. You don't have to have to do it or to start doing it, but it costs a lot. You know, as you know, Riccardo, you're always digging into your pocket. You're always doing, and people come to you and they go, well, how do I help, or what do I do? And you go, you've got to show up. You've got to participate. I can't do it all for you. I can go, this is how you do it. With us libertarians, we tend to go, oh, look, well, we could have a potato farmer come up and go, well, I believe in the government. We go, all right, cool, let's work with you. We don't, you know what I mean? We don't want cardboard cutout figures. We want unique individuals, real Australians, who are committed to improving the country. I'm 100% volunteerism, mate. We've been running canned food drives all over Sydney and all around the country. We actually do a thing we call Bleed for Liberty, where we go and donate. Anyone eligible to donate blood goes and does it. That's an LDP thing that we don't advertise. Oh, look at us. Just go and do it. You know, as a group, we'll send out people who, you know, go and raise funds. A friend of mine last year, he raised $4,500. You know, without the party, you know, being involved. I helped him out with a lot of it, and we raised $4,500 for the cancer ward at the Wollongong Hospital. You know, and he just said to me, I'd love to really help this cause. How do we do it? And we just went and did it. People seem to think, Riccardo, and tell me if I'm wrong, they seem to think you need to have somebody's permission to go and do something. I want to go and save the whales. I can go and do it.
Exactly.
You know, like, you might have to do some homework. You might have to ask for some help. You know, you and I might disagree on a lot. And we've been talking a lot about MS as a thing. You know, I think you and I could run a brilliant MS fundraising campaign and support MS.
Yeah.
Let's do a gala where we can dress up in cocktail dresses.
You know, it is part of my family as well. And, you know, I just look at these things and I go, I'm not going to wait for the government to come and save the multiple sclerosis.
Multiple sclerosis.
Sometimes I speak English. Actually, the other day I was hopeless, but sometimes I'm all right. But, you know, and I look at it and people go, well, we should save this mob. Okay, stop asking government to do it for you. Ask the government to let you keep your money and then you put it wherever you like. Go and fucking donate your own money however you want. You don't need their permission to do anything. And if you haven't got any money, get off your ass, build a charity. If you don't have your own charity, you can ring a Lions Club or a Rotary Club or any already registered mob, and you can say, guys, I want to raise money for X. This is how I want to do it. Will you provide me with the framework to do it? So here's your blueprint, anyone who's thinking about doing charitable work, because I've done a bit of it. You know, you go and see somebody who's already got the facility set up. You ask them if they're willing to be a conduit to do it. And more often than not, they'll go, that's great. We'd love to be involved. We'd love to help. That's what they're designed for. And you run your fundraiser. You know, you might require some insurance or something because there's always some parasite sticking his or her nose in to get a taste of these things. Yep. But watching, you know, like what you're saying about, you know, go and do it. Get stuck in. It's the same with the party. Run the sausage sizzle. Do whatever you've got to do to make things happen, and get off your ass. Don't sit there on your. And I'm going to take the piss out of some people here. They sit on Facebook all fucking day thinking they're changing the world. Doesn't change the world. Get out and do. Right, and you can be as critical of people like you and myself who go out and we put our necks on the line, and you know somebody will call me an ugly bastard, or well, you should polish up this way or do whatever. Fantastic. You're still sitting in mummy's basement or whatever you're doing on your little laptop or on your little phone, talking bullshit on social media like you're changing the world. You've got to leave the house to change the world, guys and girls. I'm just saying it. I might not win in this election. Riccardo might not win. But we're out giving it a red hot crack.
I'm at the rallies. I'm at the rallies. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Dean, for answering a question that was completely dedicated to Riccardo. Okay, the next question. Don't mind me being a little blunt, but good luck. How will we wake up the general populace? Because they still vote for the two major parties, which disappoints me.
I'll tell you what, it's easy. Go to Dean's website, go to my website, download the documents that are there, and do letter drops. Just start doing the letter drops. That's the simplest answer to that question, waking people up. It's an educative process. It's going to take a long time. But you've got to start. As Dean said, get out. Do it.
Get out there.
There are ways to do this. Just download the pages, stick them in letterboxes, start moving your street, then your suburb. And all of a sudden people will come to you and you'll have your phone number down the bottom. They'll ring you up and say, what can we do? You say, well, let's meet and let's decide what we're going to do. And then we're going to do it. It's not that hard. It really isn't that hard.
It's not that hard to do the letter drops. We used to do that when we were little. My mum and I used to go to people's houses just for walks and then put in Christian tracts about like Jesus. So we can do the same thing. We can do that as well as, political ones. Whatever works. This is from FAP. How do you see common law courts playing a role in Australia? Do either of you have an answer to that? I've never thought about it.
No, I can't answer that. Sorry, I have to look into it. We're looking into the law system at the moment.
Yeah.
That's not my long suit, but that's certainly something we want to make sure of.
What I do know is the current system, the way it is, needs an awful lot of reformation, and we're just so far off. Like until we get some sensible people in the fight, in the room, in the belly of the beast, we're stuck. How do we change anything? We can't do much until we're in there as far as that style thing goes. I'd love to get in there and collapse it and start again.
Yeah, wow, I'm getting a lot of hate. I don't even know what I said. I don't remember what I said. FRDR, there are men out there. Do not paint us all with this. I don't remember what I said. What if? Well, I think they're getting a bit sensitive. Okay. I don't know what I said. I apologize. I don't know what I said. Well, I shouldn't apologize. I don't know what I said. But
don't apologize if you're not sure what you've done. That put you
something about painting all men in the same brush. I don't know. Question. The role of fake news in MSM, as George Soros has a big stake in CH9. That's not really a question, but do you guys have a response to that?
All of it's propaganda, all of it's corrupted, all of it's dodgy as shit. That's why we tried to build a little station here where we can at the very least, be free and honest. And, if people disagree with some of it, they're welcome to, no problem.
Let me give you an example of what he's talking about, distractions. Think of the one subject that's the military subject that's on the TV at the moment. You'll probably come up with Ben Roberts-Smith and his war crimes, right?
Yeah.
You see, that's the sign of a boy. That's not the sign of a man. That's a child. See, that's the product of years of leftist inability to decide right from wrong and appropriate from inappropriate. But anyway, back to the story. If you think about what military issue is on the news, it's about Ben Roberts-Smith. Now, I don't know whether Ben Roberts-Smith killed anybody illegally or not, and I don't much care. That needs to be formally investigated. But if they're telling you to look one way, you've got to look the other. What are they not talking about? How about they talk about the 500 Australian diggers who have come back from Afghanistan since 2017 and have committed suicide? Yep. So silent Scott Morrison, hero to whomever, is breathtakingly silent. The Minister for Defence is breathtakingly silent. The Minister for Veterans Affairs is breathtakingly silent. They all want to hang Ben Roberts-Smith out to dry, but they're not talking about 500 soldiers that committed suicide. They're not talking about the soldiers who were used as guinea pigs in a drug trial in Timor that are still suffering from the ill effects. That's what I mean, people, when I say, will you stop voting Liberal, Labor, Greens and Nationals? Yeah. They are lying to you. If they're telling you to look left, look right. If they're telling you to look right, look left. Yeah. The fathers, you mentioned the family court. there's a reasonably sound figure that 21 men a week are committing suicide as a result of it.
Very sad.
But that doesn't get a mention, does it? Because the mainstream media are there to keep you stupid. Stop watching the news. Stop voting Liberal Labor. And someone pin down Scott Morrison and ask him a question. None of them will answer you, not one. Because they're puppets. We are paying them, and what they need is our money and our vote. And Jesus Christ, the moment we stop voting for them and stop giving them money, they will run because there's nothing for them to do.
Let's do that. Let's make that our goal.
That's what we have to do. That's the
goal, everyone. We can end it there. That's a fantastic thing to leave it on. Everyone, try and take back your country. Stop voting major parties. That's it.
Simple message.
Yes, let's make it happen. Riccardo, fix it. Dean, fix it.
Cut off the money and cut off the votes. By the way, Riccardo blasphemed a minute ago and you didn't correct him. Every time I do, you jump on me like nobody's business.
Did he blaspheme? I didn't hear. What did he say?
He said, Jesus Christ. Now, when I do that,
I was praying. I'm a good Christian. I pray a lot, let me tell you.
I tell you what, Riccardo, I'm a non-religious man, and most people are aware of that, and I don't apologise.
But I'm always getting angry at Dean for his blasphemy. Always.
But as most people know, I'm fairly respectful of people's religion. I have no drama.
Yes,
but I tell you, anytime I come out with a Jesus Christ or oh God, I get excuse me, don't blaspheme around me, and I go, yeah, all right, I'm trying, leave me alone.
Every day.
Every day. But
literally,
no, mate, we do need to make a lot of difference. And look, all bullshit and joking aside, which I've had fun talking to you tonight, mate. If I'm not going to get the seat in Monaro, I would much rather see yourself get it than any of those other major four parties, and you'll certainly have my support in that capacity.
Right, I get you, Dean. If I don't get it, I hope you do, mate. I mean that hand on heart.
And I think either way, we'd both be a far better option for the electorate, because it would be at least real, it would be honest, and not corrupt.
Correct.
Very true. And I'll probably see you soon, Riccardo. I want to come to your house and hang out.
Okay.
you can have it for a while after we go for a drive next week.
Okay. Yeah, well, Emma Eros wants me as well. Everyone wants me.
Well, that's a good thing.
I know. I feel very loved by some of the best people in the world, and that's what you guys are. So, guys, please, those of you who are part of the Eden Monaro, please think about who and what you're voting for very, very carefully, very considerately. We'll share this around, I suppose, the people who live in that area. I don't know how we'll do that, but hopefully those people who are part of that area will be able to look at this and consider the two of you. I'll put all of your links in the description box below. I haven't yet, but I will. Dean's yours is easy enough. Huh? Excuse me, be quiet. Stop it. I've been doing stuff today, but I don't know. You're an independent, so I didn't know what to put in the description box below, Riccardo. I didn't know what link to.
Just put down AustraliaOneParty.com. That's if they want to find out about me. AustraliaOneParty.com, and they'll find out about me, my background, my policies, because they're not my policies, they're our policies, but because I'm an independent, I'm not running as an A1 candidate. That'll be done.
That's why I wasn't sure. Okay, cool.
AustraliaOneParty.com.
Okay, I'll add that in there. All right, guys, thank you so much for asking your questions and for your emotion and everything. We appreciate it. And please subscribe to Resolute TV. And Riccardo, we'll have to have you on Resolute as a normal, without a live, like just a normal, nice pre-recorded interview.
Okay, we can do that too.
And look, and while I've got you, Riccardo, I might even organise, if you're open to it, come to one of the LDP meetings as a speaker. We do speaker series and things. You'd be more than welcome. I was a speaker once. Yeah.
They're big shoes to fill, dear.
No, I'm a size 6 foot.
I'm confident you did a pretty warm reception, mate, so I'd be more than happy to have you there in front of our crowd. Don't poach too many of our members, of course, but we've had Sophie York come along, and she was great, and we even up in Queensland had a Greens candidate at one stage, which provided a bit of an interesting evening.
Did you disinfect afterwards?
I don't know. I wasn't there for that one, but I suppose like it comes down to that principle of free speech. We're happy enough to listen to your ideas. We don't have to agree on everything to share ideas. And mate, we'd love to host you. You'd be more than welcome.
I'd love to do it.
Yay! All right, great thing to leave it off. Bye, everyone. Ending the broadcast now. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. See you later.